When I first got my own place, I wanted to fill it with houseplants. I think when I first started out, I geared more towards like the trendy plants. Like I think back then it was like fiddle leaf fig that was very popular. I wanted a bird of paradise in my home and all, like, you know, based on what you see on your Pinterest boards and all, right? But I had a very rude awakening because when I put plants in certain areas, like I would put them in very dark corners or I would put them wherever I wanted to put them, then I realized that they just couldn't thrive that way. So I think I learned the hard way with my first round of houseplants that you have to understand what the plant needs and then you try and give it what it needs, yeah, rather than like, you know, putting it in a very dark place and thinking that it will survive. After that, I think as I went down this rabbit hole, I realized that you start off by buying like, you know, plants from supermarket or Cheers or, you know, whatever catches your fancy. Then after that, you start to realize like, oh, you go into a certain like genus, then you realize that, oh, you know, maybe I like philodendrons or I like anthuriums. And then after that, like, you know, you kind of go even deeper and then you realize that, oh, you really like a certain type and then, you know, you just want to like see all the different varieties and all the different forms that it has. For me personally, I really like verrucosums. Like my friends on Instagram do make fun of me a lot for it. Like every time they see a post on a verrucosum, they will just forward it to me. There are actually about 20 forms of verrucosum that are out there, and possibly a lot more that are not documented. And I just find the form very fascinating. Like it's one of those plants where I can just stare at the leaves all day long. Yeah. So I just find it very calming and very soothing to look at plants. So there was like this period of time where I actually just put all my plants in my living room, and then I realized that they were starting to really wilt and falter and I didn't know what was happening. So that was the first time I thought about buying a light meter and I thought about buying a humidity meter. And what I realized was that it gets very, very scorching hot in the mornings to the point where the leaves are not only burning, but I think they are actually baking because it's so hot and so dry at the same time. And even the humidifier was not doing anything for it. So I think that's when I toyed with the idea of building like a custom-made terrarium. And my husband panicked a bit. I think maybe it's a bit too much for now. It's a bit high involvement. So we just thought we'll just get a glass cabinet first and see where it goes. So I think there are three main factors that I took into account when I kind of built this glass cabinet. It's just very makeshift for now. I'm using existing grow lights. I haven't had the time to go and buy like proper grow lights yet, but I'm just using what I have from Taobao. And in total, it gives me about the equivalent of like bright shade kind of light. I also have a humidity meter here that tells me what the temperature is and what the current humidity levels are. So you can see like because it's open, so it's dropped to 73, but usually it goes up to like 95, 99. Then you can see that they are quite happy. So my plants were suffering for a while. I realized that it was spider mites, but I also realized that it was humidity. And ever since I put them in, they've started putting out new leaves lah. So at least that's a good development. But I think I still need to figure out what to do about the spider mites issue. The other factor that I've included apart from light and humidity is air circulation. So I've just made sure that I have very like cheap handheld fan, like this is about $10 plus, just to run for about 4 hours a day. So that at the very least, there's a bit of circulation going around so that it doesn't become as susceptible to fungal infection. This plant isn't really the prettiest plant, but this was when I first started my Pictum tricolor craze and I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I got it from a home seller who I think sold it to me for a bit higher than what I wanted to pay for. But the problem is when I brought it home, right, it had practically no roots, so it wasn't rooted. It was a wild cutting apparently, and it really came from like some Sumatran rainforest lah. So it's really like a wild plant, right? And obviously it was not happy and it died. And it died all the way down to a stem. Like there was absolutely nothing for months. And I just kept watering it. So I just water, see what happened. And then now, like, I mean, admittedly it's not the prettiest plant, but I like the fact that it's grown like 4 leaves ever since, and there's a 5th one on the way. So I always keep this plant to remind me that, yeah, I need to be more resilient. This is my recent haul from Ecuador, Ecuagenera. I was a bit disappointed when it arrived because some of the plants were a lot smaller than expected. Like, for example, this one was supposed to be an Anthurium recavum, but I don't know what it is. It looks like something I plucked off the street. So I'm just going to keep an open mind, keep it and see where it goes. This is a very small Magnificum. I'm actually quite excited about this one because I just spotted this today. So it's new growth that's coming out and it wasn't there before. So it could be a sign that the plant is acclimating. Yeah. So it's a fairly small specimen because Magnificums can actually grow to be quite large. But I think I quite like the texture of it. Yeah, it's just very velvety and very soft. I like varicosums, but I've been told that they are practically impossible to keep in our, like, not say impossible, but it's very difficult for them to thrive in our climate. So this is the one that I got from Aqua Genera as well. But I'm quite happy because there's this like little leaf that just popped out. So maybe it really enjoys the aircon. Yeah. And then that's mainly it lor. The rest is still acclimating. Some of them actually arrived with the leaf completely snapped. So I just made the decision to chop it off. I think you can see as well, even though I have 2 grow lights and the light can be quite strong, I've put quite a significant like shade net here as well to make sure that it doesn't scorch the leaves. And then what I'll do is, if the aircon is on, then I will just close it lah, so that at least it can, like, you know, kind of sit in this like cloud forest kind of environment for a bit. Yeah, which I think is quite cool, quite nice to watch also. Like, it's almost as if they really enjoy sitting in this misty, cold environment. In the past, I used to buy from Carousel, and then at one point I was buying quite a lot from Sindo. Sindo for me is a bit of a risk to take on. Even buying from places like Aqua Genera is a risk, right? Because like my recent haul, some of my plants came in quite battered and I didn't really like what I received. So I feel like whenever you ship in from overseas, there's always that risk that you don't get exactly what you thought you were paying for. And it's a risk that you just have to take on now. But I've actually started to really support local sellers a lot. And when I say local sellers, I really mean people who have really been in the business of like growing like aroids and they're very passionate about it. So Sandy from Terrascape is someone who, like, you know, I really love Sandy's plants. Like, I really love his nursery, and every time I go there, I always tell him I can walk through the entire nursery 3 to 4 times, because whenever I walk past the second, third time, there's always something new that I might have missed out on. And I'm happy to support him because I think his aftercare is fantastic. It's probably one of the best that I've ever experienced in Singapore, where if I have a problem with a plant, he really kind of like walks me through it and he tries to diagnose what the issue is. So it's been very helpful. The other person that I would want to buy from more often that I haven't had a chance to, and that's who I got my big bill and my pasta xenon from, is Sean from Green Fingers. So Sean again is someone who is very trustworthy. He would likely choose the plant for you. You know, the last time I bought from him, I didn't really like choose a specific plant, but he delivered a very, very healthy plant to me, and I think it's grown ever since. I'm just very thankful for sellers like that who take on the risk when they ship all these exotic plants in from overseas to Singapore, and then they have to take on the risk of acclimating the plants and making sure that the plants can thrive in our climate before passing it on to us. So I feel that, you know, it's worth paying that slight markup, because it really doesn't even begin to account for all the time and all the effort and all the resources that they've had to put in just to make sure that the plant is stabilized for us. Yeah, so I would really support local growers lah, in that sense. So this Alocasia cuprea is actually not doing well. I had it for a very, very long time, easily about more than 6 months, and I couldn't figure out why, but it just stopped growing completely. So it was just these 2 leaves for a while, and it just was not growing at all, and I couldn't figure out why. And then when I repotted it recently and I dug out the media, I realized that it was all styrofoam pellets. And it was just a very little bit of sphagnum, and there were practically no roots lah. So I got a shock. So I repotted it in like proper potting soil, and then I lined it with sphagnum just to keep the humidity up. So ever since then, and this has been about 2 weeks since I repotted, and then now there's like a new shoot coming out. So I'm hoping that this will spell better days ahead for the plant. It's actually not a super popular or trendy plant in Singapore right now, but I was very drawn to it. So it's actually a hybrid anthurium. And what I found out was that when it grows in its native environment, like in a more like in an environment that's more suited to its climate, the leaves can actually grow to about 3 meters long. And so what I have here is actually a baby plant. And I thought that was so cool because with every new leaf that comes out, right? So you can see with anthuriums here, like whenever the new leaf comes out, it's always very, very small and it looks like a tiny, tiny leaf. But the moment it unfolds fully, it will actually start to expand. So this is not even the full size yet. It's very likely that you know, the full size of the leaf will be this or even slightly longer lah. Because with every new leaf that's come out, like the leaf length I noticed has gotten like just a little bit longer and wider. Yeah. So it'll be quite interesting to see where it goes with this, because I find it quite difficult to keep big plants in a setting like this. I don't know whether big plants actually need a more natural kind of environment to thrive, but so far all the big plants I've had to rehome them because either they ran out of space or they were just not happy. Like my fig tree outside also is just like, it's a lot happy and it's very low maintenance outside, but indoors it was almost dying. Yeah. Yeah. So this is my favorite plant. I really love it. Yeah, I got it from Green Fingers, from Sean from Green Fingers. The other plant I'm very proud of as well is this. So it used to be called the Monstera epipremnoides, but I think it's now called the Monstera esqueleto. What I like about this is when I first got it from Terrascape, this plant is actually can be quite expensive. Like if you buy a mature version, it can be $300 to $400. But when I first got this from Sandy, he was very, very kind. He actually sold it to me as like a one-leaf cutting. And he told me that, you know, don't worry about it, just give it the right care and it will grow very, very big. And I got this from him like not too long ago, actually, I think earlier this year. And it's gotten to this size. And you can see that with every new leaf that comes out, the fenestrations just get more and more pronounced to the extent where it's very lace-like. Like I don't even dare to touch this leaf on most days because you can see that, you know, it's so thin. It's practically like thread. So I thought that's pretty cool. And then there's like a new leaf on the way. I think I've gotten most of my wish list plants. I think right now it's about expanding my collection and whether I can grow them well. Yeah, because I feel like if I can't grow them well and I can't make them thrive, then I don't want to just keep amassing more plants. So I'm currently at a stage where I think that Ecuador Hall was probably the last of it for a while. I'm just really focused on the plants that I have now and I haven't really thought about what plant I'm going to get next.